Hello guys, TKG is here for your comfortable LostArk life. In this video, I'd like to cover the recent status and improvements that was live on the LostArk KR, as the KR region update progression are quite slightly ahead than the global, so I thought it'd be great to share some of those infos for your LostArk journey. Now follow me, I'll share what I need. Before going in, this video will be covering some of the frequent issues and debates within the KL LostArk community. Recently, there has been a growing sentiment that the current state of the game has structural issues, and normally this leads to numerous discussions. In this video, I've compiled some of the most compelling arguments from these debates, and of course with my personal opinions also included. Let's get straight to the point. The current structure of the LostArk focuses significantly on leveling up all characters. To create a strong and impressive main character, you really need to have at least 5 alt characters to ensure a stable goal supply and progression. The problem is that this structure was manageable for players until Season 2. Back then, if you properly leveled up your alt characters, you could support the progression of your main character or even another alt character with sufficient in-game resources. However, in Season 3, the biggest issue is that this structure has become severely hard to handle. Problem is the cost. In the past, the resource needed to progress the alt could be sufficiently covered within the game. Why? Because the proper reward were guaranteed. Although not perfect, there were decent reward for each raid, and the cost of progressing alts or main characters was manageable for players. However, Season 3 is different. The cost gap between progressing alt and main character in the current Season 3 feels significantly different. For example, let's say you want to enjoy raid from item level 1640 to 1660 and 1680. But one thing you need to know is that this item level is just the entry ticket, and you will be required to have more things, specifically a proper character build, or in KL expressions, on proper character setting or mana setting. What is commonly referred to as the mana setting includes gem, engraving books, and accessories with effective options. Additionally, elixir and transcendence are often considered mandatory, which means you will need even more gold. Of course, it's understandable that progressing a character requires some in-game currency. This would be acceptable if it were within a reasonable range. For example, at the starting point of Tier 4, 1660 normal raid gear generally requires Tier 4 level 7 gems on the Korean server. To go beyond this, you will need Tier 4 level 8 gems. Additionally, you will need to gradually level up your relic engraving books to join in raid above 1680. So what makes this such an issue? As I mentioned earlier, the cost is the main problem. Even if relic engraving books are not immediately necessary, the biggest concern is whether they will be in the future. As of now, the general requirements on the Korean server for attempting the latest episode 2 and 3 is quite high, especially if you join a party with less experienced party. They may expect even higher builds than those requirements, making it difficult to find a party if your build isn't quite enough. So what happens if you cannot access high-end contents? Most players who want to continue enjoying the game will create another alt characters. Why? To earn more in-game currency. This is why alts are not optional but essential. The bigger problem is that this new character is a completely new one. If you invest this much in your main character to continually secure a steady gold income, you need to invest the same amount in the alt. Additionally, another significant issue is that these two characters might seem to be tied to one roster, but they are not. They are actually separated, with the only shared aspect is the engraving and cards. If then, for example, if your main character uses Hitmaster and you create an alt based on bag attack, they will use entirely different engravings, making them practically separate. Saying they are separate, of course, includes other reasons. For instance, the accessories. stones, and gems created for your main character are essentially unusable for the alt. So unless there is a support system like a pass, you really have to start everything from the bottom. But here's another issue. What happens when you invest all that effort and resource to level up? Will you really get the reward with compensation for your investments? To be honest, reaching new contents requires significant requirements. Showing the tier 4 level 10 gems would be astonishing indeed. So let's say you got all you need and join the top tier contents, but the current reward for the highest level contents are, well, this is it. It seems a bit off, doesn't it? After climbing so high, receiving these rewards weekly is supposed to be a benefit. Honestly, it is quite demotivating. Of course, the absurd cost alone make one reconsider many things. Or does episode 3 or even episode 1 and 2 raid really fire up a sense of challenge? If I asked, honestly, I'm not sure. While LostArk raid are well designed, the recent tier 4 raid personally feels like lacking. There's a sense of obligations rather than enjoyments, as if you are playing raid to not fall behind than the others. So the rewards aren't significantly different. And the high tiers, which cost more money, don't offer substantial benefit. In essence, having a strong characters only makes it easier to find a party and finish the weekly raid faster. Therefore, I believe the level 1640 range is where you can truly enjoy the game. With a pass, you can sufficiently enjoy in-game contents with what the game provides. But let's consider this. If a new player has just soloed their mine and Echidna, and now with some confidence sees the high-level content requirements, what would happen? If it were me, I'd be scared and start to move on to the other game. Another big problem is that there is no way to change your newly created characters if it is poorly balanced. For example, if I were to compare my character, Slayer or Gunslinger, with another classes, I honestly wouldn't recommend it. On the other hand, I would recommend a character like the recent released Wild Soul, which has good damage performance and is more versatile. In simple terms, a class with a structurally and fundamentally with broken skill cycle is bound to cause dissatisfactions. For example, the only sinner skill for the Slayer, which I just mentioned, is Wild Stomp, and it includes a counter. So if you use the sinner skill for the counter and enter the damaging cycle, it won't be able to perform at its full potential. And I'm not finished. The Slayer also must match the timing of Rage Burst. If you cannot use it properly and are forced into gimmicks, you will have to deliberately turn it off and wait again for it to be in a best performance status. These issues particularly get worse as the class gets older. So I gotta be honest, I think LostArk needs to adjust this aspect. It would be better if they specialize in certain classes into a certain extent. For example, creating a character truly specialized in damage dealing, or a class that are significantly contribute to gimmicks. Of course, the difference in damage shouldn't be too vast, but balancing should be done more in line with the class's characteristics. Simply saying, since there are 2 counters, every class must have 2 counters in their skill set is not an effective solution, I think. And I think this is one of the main reasons why the community is currently so fired up. The reward system is seriously weird. For example, the reward for episode 3 hard is 34,000 gold. Considering the time and money invested, is not really a moderate reward. On the other hand, the Behemoths and Echidna in the 1640 range still offer quite lucrative reward without spending much money and time. Not to mention the difficulty is easy. I strongly agree with the opinion that instead of reducing the reward for low-level contents, there should be motivation to encourage players to progress to higher level contents. Moreover, the raid in LostArk are currently positioned as weekly tasks within the game. Of course, it's true that there is excitement and anticipation in the first time when you enter the raid, but when it becomes a weekly routine, it ultimately becomes just a task. The primary goal is gold farming, how quickly and reliably you can farm gold. In fact, that is the core of LostArk. So essentially, all characters and players across all levels are doing the same thing, farming gold. Everything converges with that purpose. I gotta be honest, I don't really understand the current direction of LostArk. Do they want to make a pay-to-win game? Or do they just want us to repetitively farm gold? Or are they preparing something else? Despite this, the reason many players are still sticking with the game on the Korean server is, honestly speaking, I think it's due to the sunk cost. It feels like players are forcing to keep playing to avoid falling behind. Or maybe they keep playing because they've invested so much that they don't want to waste it. This repetitive contents and mediocre reward system seems to be the main reasons why the community is so fired up. And honestly, I'm quite curious. If these complaints keep piling up and players in Korea start leaving the game, do they have any cards up their sleeve to draw them back? Or is the reason they aren't responding to the community's fierce reaction because their internal metrics shows that the situation is still quite good? I'm really curious about this. In a way, the close communication with players by the previous director is what has kept the game going up to this point. But now, they aren't even doing that. So I really wonder why. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, everyone. And always, thanks for your big support. Hope this video was a little help for your LostArk journey. And of course, if you like my videos, hit the sub for more upcoming infos. I'll come back with more useful infos in the next video.